Think back to your school times for a moment. Do you remember that one classmate? Or probably it was even yourself. You know, the kind of learner that attends every lesson there is, never misses the preps, the night time studies. The person was always a part of every discussion group there could be. Probably they even got extra time of learning, say like coaching, only for the exams to come out and the results do not match with the efforts input. For such learners, the teachers tend to categorize them as lazy. Their friends make fun of them as being slow, and many of them believed it. Because how do you explain putting in all those efforts and getting low grades? It doesn't really make sense. And maybe you are a parent. You've probably been looking at this report card during the holidays of your child, and you're wondering what is not happening. I have taken them to the best schools probably. I have hired these so-called teachers to give them extra lessons. I have bought every book there is, every material that you've been told of, you've bought for your child. But the report cards do not seem to show or reflect what you've invested. And maybe you are at the verge of giving up. I've encountered a family that, while I was doing this house call, they told me they have a belief their daughter is bewitched. Probably somebody from back in the village is trying to bewitch their daughter. Well, what if I told you that person is not dumb? Your child is not dumb. They are not lazy. Their efforts are not the problem. It is that their brain learns differently. Back in the school times, probably this was you, but you never realized. And maybe you even grew to believe, I'm dumb, I'm not cut out for school. What I'm about to explain could probably help you understand something you carried for all those years, and may most definitely help someone who is currently struggling right now as we speak. According to one of the leading voices on the issue of dyslexia worldwide, her name is Dr. Sally Shewitz from Yale Center for Dyslexia and Giftedness. This has nothing to do with intelligence. I'll repeat, dyslexia has nothing to do with a person's intelligence. The real issue is in how the brain processes the sounds of language, or what we call phonological processing. You may wonder why I'm talking about phonics and phonological processes, yet the whole issue was about how learners struggle in school. Listen, at the very beginning of education, at the very beginning of studies, we get introduced to a new language. And a language, I want you to think about it as this huge brick wall or a structure, a building. But for that building to come to that size or what you see, it was built because one brick was laid upon the other, the small building blocks. Such is the case with a language. You see, every letter in the alphabet has a name, and every one of those letters with a name has a sound. And as these letters interact with each other, this letter comes together with this letter. With their different sounds, they come together and form one different sound. That is how you're able to read, because you were taught that when I see S and A, S, A, Sa, your mind automatically registers that. The next time you get to see these two letters interacting, you automatically go to sounding it as Sa. That is not the case with learners who have dyslexia. Because while for the rest of the population, this comes naturally, they don't need to put in a lot of energy to remember what each of these letters really sounds like for them to go ahead and read this word and even go ahead to understand and create meaning. Because it is from understanding the alphabet, the sounds, the letters, the words, that we get to develop our vocabulary and now attach meanings and even pictures to these words. It is different for learners with dyslexia. And because of that struggle with reading, it also impedes their understanding and recollecting of this whole pathway of how am I going to read, how am I going to understand, and how am I going to reproduce what I've studied when the examination comes. While the rest of the learners can read these words that the teacher has put up on the board, 5 minutes and they are done, a dyslexic learner may need even 20 minutes or even 30 to just read these few words. The brain is getting tired, and what happens when the brain gets tired? They shut off. When this happens in a setting with an instructor or a teacher who does not understand how dyslexia works, this child is being stubborn, this child is dumb, this child is lazy, and most times in the local setting, these kids will just be punished. Now, that is how learners grow to just convince themselves, I'm dumb, maybe I'm not cut out for school, maybe there is no hope for me, because that's all that surrounding is telling them. But that is not true. My goal is that every parent who gets to watch this, every teacher who gets to interact with this, will think back and give their child a chance to at least understand what it is that they are probably struggling with. Before you count them out, before you consider taking them out of school probably, this is what I ask of you. I want you to stick with me here. I want us to understand what we can do for such learners. Because I assure you this, from experience, when these learners are understood, when we understand how their brain works, it will be very easy for us to kind of reverse engineer the study and understanding pathway for them and help them. See you next time.